All right, thanks for tuning into this video. I'd like to start this video off by saying I did not intend to make a toilet paper dispenser. I actually found one online that I was more than happy with. Well, I don't know if I'd say more than happy with. I was content with. I was pretty close to ordering it, and then I found out that it was all plastic, and I was like, okay, because it's got kind of like a faux metal finish. It's kind of mimicking old fishing rods, and I was like, yeah, that could work in the trailer. But then I started seeing pictures from reviews of it just shattered and broken, and I was like, okay, I can't do that. So that's what sent me down this journey of making my own toilet paper dispenser, and then of course making it even more complicated by making it automatic loading. So the reason I made the toilet paper dispenser out of brass and stainless steel was because it's going to be in the trailer, it's going to be in all kinds of humidity conditions all over the country, and I didn't want it to corrode or anything like that. But you'll hear a couple of times in the video that I actually intended to make it out of aluminum, but then aluminum and brass are dissimilar metals and they would start corroding each other. So I couldn't go down that route. So I was kind of forced to go stainless, but then anybody who's worked with metal a lot knows that aluminum is much easier to work with and would have been much preferable, but the stainless will ensure that this toilet paper dispenser probably outlives the trailer and me. One thing that I think you should consider before going down this journey yourself is not all toilet paper rolls are the same. As you can tell, this hole is way bigger than these holes. And then let's see if you can tell this. The rolls are not actually the same height. So if you're making a precision device, or you need to have enough adjustment in what you're making to account for all the anomalies between manufacturers. I believe this is Angel Soft, and then these are Scots. So yes, both of these are Scots, and they have a different size inner diameter tube. So those are what you need to figure out. I'll also say that the footage from this totaled 10 hours and 50 minutes. So the fact that it's actually edited down to just over 2.5 hours is a good thing. So I'm sorry for the long video, but it's necessary to see the whole process of how this was built, but I hope you enjoy. All right, so here's all the parts and pieces that I've gathered to build this toilet paper dispenser. As you can see, I spent a lot of time on McMaster. If you don't know McMaster and you're building kind of one-off things, this is a great resource. It can be a little expensive, but they are always on time. You can give them a call and they're very knowledgeable. Some of the stuff was available on Amazon, but not at the same quality, I would say. The brass tubes were actually a little bit thinner. They were 14 thousandths thin. These are 32 thousandths, the wall thickness. So these are twice as thick, and since we're going to be mounting it from these. Now what's interesting is, since you guys saw the thumbnail, you actually know exactly what this thing looks like before I do. I have an idea in my head, and I kind of designed and built the whole thing in my head. So I don't want this just to be a toilet paper dispenser. I also want it to be somewhat automatic loading. So you're going to take the toilet paper roll and push it up in there, and then levers are going to hit this, and then it's going to lock in place. Not only is it going to lock, but it's also going to have a bit of tension right here so that while it's being towed down the road, the toilet paper doesn't start unraveling itself. So let me explain some of the things that I have. I have a 5-inch wide by 12 inches long, 1/2-inch piece of 304 stainless. I have two 6-inch diameter, 1/4-inch thick 304 stainless pieces. I got all this on eBay just because it was cheaper. I have some shoulder bolts, also stainless. Some stainless springs. I got these two different sizes so that I can kind of dial this whole thing in a little bit better. Two bronze bushings bearings. These are actually for a different project, but they came with this order. They're riv nuts for mounting the Ninja double oven inside the trailer, so stay tuned for that video. These are brass acorn nuts. These are stainless steel threaded rods. So these are 12 inches long, and then these are also 12-inch long brass tube. And then I also have a 1/4-inch brass tube with a ground rod. This will be for what the mechanism is going to pivot off of. And then off of eBay, I actually found some Bakelite handles that I'm going to use to kind of pull the mechanism out so that you can reload a thing of toilet paper. So I'm pretty excited about this. All in right now, and it's going to seem ridiculous, I think I'm in about 250 bucks. So the McMaster order was about 200 bucks, and then I think that bar of stainless was about 30 bucks, and then I think those were like maybe 10 bucks each. So seems a bit overkill, but I'm really excited about this. I kind of want it to have the look of kind of turn of the century, kind of like the first toilet paper dispenser kind of look. And I think that these are going to look pretty killer on there. This is the contrasting colors going around, but I got some really cool ideas, but you've already seen it because you've seen the thumbnail. But now I need to get into the layout of these. So we're going to go do the layout. I've already kind of drawn up what I would like it to look like. You can kind of see it there. So I kind of don't want the toilet paper roll in the dead center of this. I kind of want it offset so that it's easier to load and easier to grab when you're using it. So that's what we're going to go with. So let's get to the layout. All right, so here I'm using calipers, a center punch, scribes, rulers, scales, and compass. So once I figure out the dimensions on one side, mark it out, I take that over and mark it on the other plate when all the dimensions are fresh in my head. So that way it makes the layout pretty easy, but this layout was pretty tedious. So you'll see at the end all the different holes and all the different dimensions that had to be figured out, because these plates weren't, you know, precisely 6 inches round. So you had to take that in consideration when you were laying everything out, but it definitely turns out well. All right, so we finished the layout. Now, let me see if I can get it at the right angles to see if you can see the lines on here. But I drew out all the lines. I marked everything out. So even if you can't see them, I can see them. So it matches up to this pretty well. This was more rough. This is going to be more precise to the parts. Next time I'll probably definitely use some Dicom so you guys could see it a little bit easier. You can see the lines going right there. But all right, I'm going to get started drilling now. All right, that's one down, one to go. Oh, like butter. All right, so after we drilled every hole, we're countersinking the back so that there's no burr sticking up, so that way when we're drilling, this isn't at an angle. But now we're going to swap out to a bigger drill, which should be the final size drill. All right, so we're using a bigger countersink just to get a nice little edge on it. You can see right there, there's a ridge on it. And then now it looks all nice. All right, so we're gonna drill out the hole for the bushing right there. We'll see how that goes. Ow, ooh, ow. Oh, two-handed, oh. Bad drill press. All right, so we got the part all set up, and we're gonna use a 2-inch hole saw to try to drill out this part, just to see how it goes. We'll see how it goes in the stainless, and we're just gonna take our sweet time with it and see how it goes, but you'll be there to watch. All right, we're upgrading to a carbide hole saw. This one should have absolutely no problem getting through this, you would imagine. All right, here we go, take 2. Like butter. Ready, Finn?
Yeah.
Start squirting it into that corner. There it is.
Oh, that's a big hole.
Look at that washer. All right, carbide hole saw, definitely the way to go. Jeez Louise. Huh. All right, not bad for the first day. I'm telling you, that carbide hole saw cutting kit is pretty sweet. This is what it is. It's from Greenlee. Got quite a few sizes in here. I guess I'll just be using this. This is the one we use. We use the biggest one, so just had to take our time, use a bunch of cutting fluid, but the hole actually looks pretty, like I don't even know if I need to barely even sand it. Looks pretty smooth. So that's not bad. So here's the 2 end caps. And what we'll probably do is use the bandsaw to cut right there, and then cut right there, and then use the big sander to just round this stuff off, and then finish sand it later. And then definitely gonna wanna do some holes in here just to lighten it up and give it a different look. But yeah. All right, so we'll pick you back up tomorrow. All right, I'm back at it. I have the parts clamped down to my sander, and I'm gonna take this bandsaw right here, and I'm just gonna cut right there, right here, right here, and then I'll finish this off with the sander to round it. I'm gonna put a little bit of cutting fluid right about where I'm gonna start the cuts, just give the blade a little bit of lubrication. But here we go. So that's new blade and some cutting fluid, and it niffed that right off. Interesting how there was some tension in it. Made it pop. But all right, I'm gonna get out the next piece now. There it is. All right, so cut off both of those. Now I'm just gonna probably put on a aggressive, maybe 80 grit wheel, or just finish this one up, and then when I start getting closer to my final dimension, then I'm going to put a finer grit on there so that it's more of a smooth finish. All right, so you can probably barely see my line right there, so I still got a lot to grind off, but this sander can handle it. So I'm gonna go right here, work that one around. Then right here, this one's gonna be a little bit more challenging because I'm gonna have to go from this way and then probably flip it around to go this way, or I'm gonna go this way, but then it's gonna be kicking the sparks at me. So we'll just see how it feels. But before I start, there's a little bit of a burr there, so I'll kiss that burr so that it's gone either on this side or the belt side. As soon as this sandpaper is toast, I'm going to then step it up to 80 grit, and then as soon as I get close, I'll probably go to 100 or 200 grit just to fine tune it so that way it has a nicer finish to it. All right, so I think that one's pretty close. I'm just gonna wait until I change out the sandpaper to go to something a little bit finer so I can get a little bit closer, because this is a little bit coarse for finishing work. But I got the other piece right here. right, so I feel like they're both at about the same spot. I do have some other grinding to do for this project, so I'd like to leave the 60 grit in for now, and then I'll come back later and finish this up when I'm finishing up the other one, because I have disc sandpaper for this all the way up to 400 grit, and this is 60 grit. So we should be able to smooth this off. So I'm still probably about an 1/8 inch from my lines to really sneak up on it and make sure that this ends up looking pretty sweet. All right, let's get on to the next step. All right, so we're on to the next step. It's time to start drilling out this 1/2 inch thick 304 stainless plate. I'm gonna try it with this wood hole saw. I've seen it work before, not on stainless. So how I've seen it work before is you just keep lubricating it and run it real slow, come back out, go in, a lot of cutting fluid. We'll see how it goes. If this can't cut it, it's at least gonna score a circle, and then I'll just have to cut it out in the bandsaw and then grind it into a circle on the sander. So we're gonna see how this goes. All right, she's through. So now we're gonna try to score it and see what happens. That was horrifyingly noisy. So I have the drill press going as slow as it can. I believe we're going about 150 RPM. Well, it is cutting it. We'll have to give it that. I'm gonna have to go get some earplugs though, because wow. It's like slowly but surely, it's definitely cutting. Can't go too fast, but we only got to cut 2 of these. So right here, we get to a point where it starts clogging up the teeth, just like on the carbide one. So you got to clear that out, or else it won't do any new cutting. It's almost like it, like in a car, like where it gets high centered. It's almost like it's lifting up the bit. Especially when you start getting pretty deep, there's nowhere for those chips to go. All right, so I would say we're almost halfway. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna flip it over, because I don't want to put this hole saw into the table. So I'm just gonna flip it over, and the drill bit in the middle is already through, so it'll just locate on the other side, and then we'll try to meet in the middle. Yeah, I'd say we're pretty close to half. Not bad for a wood saw, right? You always want to keep your table clean, especially the more precision parts you're making, because if you have any of these little chips when you set it down, it's going to be at a different angle. Plus, I always like cleaning it, just so you could see all the new chips that you're making. All right, so I cleaned off this side, and we're going to flip it over. Right. We're going to make sure that if we do come down, that drill is not going to drill into the base of our table. All right, so now it's locked in. So now we can just put this anywhere we want. Gonna kind of want to make sure that that is smooth. It's not right there. Let's see once we tighten this thing down. Let's see. Yep, that's smooth now. So if it's located on that center drill, it should be, the hole should be located on the other side. So hopefully our circle's not off like that, but we're gonna start drilling again. And this should be horrifyingly loud at the start, I'm imagining. Yeah, once those chips have a place to go, it cuts pretty quick. So even if you don't want to flip it over, it's going to be faster if you do. All right, I think we broke through. We did. Okay. So that took about 40 minutes of starting and stopping. So isn't that fun? And now we get to see if I can, oh, there he is. There you go. There's the slug. So we were going to clean this up anyways, but you see how I started from the other side? No problem. We can clean all that up. But all right, so I have to drill one more of these. You guys saw how I did it. Once the bit gets below and there's no reliefs sticking outside the material you're drilling, you need to clear it every now and again. You need to bring it up and get all the chips out, because the chips get in there, they block it up, and then they won't let it actually drill, and you could probably create a lot of extra heat in your bit. Pretty excited about that. That's pretty nice that it actually got it all drilled out. So I just need to drill one more of these, and then I need 2 smaller ones. We might be able to use the carbide hole saw for that, and that should be a lot quicker. All right, so it is the next day. I was going to drill out the other holes yesterday, but I ran out of the cutting fluid, the Tap Magic, and this hole, even though the drill bit is not, this hole saw is not actually dull, it took over about an hour. Definitely, and I had to use WD-40. As you can see, there's like pools of WD-40 in here. For anybody that tells you WD-40 works just as good as cutting fluid, it does not. So, you've already seen me drill holes, so basically I'm going to use the carbide 2-inch hole saw. Go right here. This was a 2 3/4. So I'm going to cut out these 2 pieces right here, and then I'll bring you back in. All right, so got them both cut out. So it's just this little blade in the middle, but we're sanding these down anyway, so that doesn't matter. That's what happens when you drill in from one side and drill in from the other. It'll leave like this little lip, but that should come off pretty easy in the sander. So now I'll show you, these are the 2 big ones from yesterday. So you can tell that this one right here is a little bit cleaner than this one. This is the one where I used the WD-40. The WD-40 is not a cutting fluid, obviously, and this should put that to bed forever. Now, when I was using the cutting fluid, the little parts in between the teeth were actually gumming up more, and I thought, oh, well, the WD-40 is working better. No, it's just not cutting as much. That's why it's gumming up, or that's why it's not gumming up. But also wanted to show you, here is the 2 3/4 hole saw. It is just as sharp as ever. So nothing rounded off, anything like that. Also, here is the carbide one. Also nothing rounded off. This one's still very much good to go. But all right, now we're gonna be on to the next step. And I'm figuring this out as I go, because all of this was designed in my head. So these pieces are part of the mechanism that is going to hold the toilet paper roll. So I'm going to round this off. I'm going to thread this and then round this off, so that this will look like maybe less than half of a circle, so that when it goes into the toilet paper roll, it'll spread it out and center itself. And then this is probably going to have a nice 45-degree angle on it, and it's going to be part of the mechanism, so that when you pull the side plunger, this is going to help lock it out and then also release it so that it goes in. So this is going to be an interesting part. All right, so now what we're going to do, the smaller pieces, I'm going to tap those to 1/4-20. The other pieces, the hole saw initially drilled that center hole out just a slightly too big for 1/4-20. Even these are slightly too big for 1/4-20. I'm gonna see if I can't do all this by hand. And then so after this, we can start sanding the outside, because I'll be able to put like a bolt into this and spin it around on a drill on the sander. Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to clamp this into something. Yeah, that's just enough leverage. All right. All right, that's one tapped. Always want to take your time with this. If it feels like it binds up, you definitely want to stop. It's not going to be a good day if you break a tap in this. Alright, that part's in. That's done. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to find a bolt or a threaded rod. I'm going to bolt it in there, put a nut on one side, so then that way I can put this into a drill, and then I could round it off a lot easier on that disc sander. So that'll be where we'll pick you up. I cut off a bolt, I tighten this nut on there. I'll probably flush this off, and alright, so that's what she looks like. As you can tell from the gold color, it is extremely hot, but it's about what we're thinking right there. It's just gonna push in. That's how hot it is. So if you think about that, it's gonna want to force its way into the center of that. Initially, I was thinking about something a little bit more pointy, but I think that that's probably going to be perfect. All right, so I'm going to do the other one. It's going to be basically the same. The only tip I would have for you is I think that going slower is better than going faster. And I'm also, you can see the way, so the wheel's spinning this way and this is spinning this way. So it's spinning the opposite way. And I just put this this piece on and it's already destroyed. So I would definitely say take your time, just ease into it. But I'll bring you back when I got the other one done. All right, we got that one finished. It is still nuclear hot. I think they match pretty well. Let's see, right in there. Most importantly, they both fit into the toilet paper dispenser, or the toilet paper roll. And so now I'm gonna polish them up a little bit, smooth them out, and we'll go from there. All right, so there's the first one. There's the second one. I cleaned up all the bluing on this flap sander. So I like the way this looks, but as it contacts the toilet paper roll constantly, it's gonna just wear itself away. Then it's gonna kind of look kind of wonky. This is gonna just more maintain the way it looks. So I think I'm just gonna do that. It's gonna match the aesthetic of everything better. So yeah, so I'm just gonna, I'll take you guys in to show you what I'm doing with this, but then that'll be it. I ran through quite a few disc sanding pads, just getting it to that point. So I need to order some more from Amazon before I tackle these guys, because this is gonna be even worse. But I have an idea for that. I'm gonna see if I can't find anything a little bit higher quality. And then possibly just a lot more of it. But all right, I'll bring you in for this part. As you can see, you can put all kinds of designs in it. But the other thing too is when I initially ground out the first one, it was 100 grit. So this is actually smoothing it out quite a bit so that it feels a lot nicer. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with this. So I'm going to check and see if I can't order in some more sandpaper for the disc grinder, and then we'll be back onto the other part that connects with this part. All right, next day. Got some hopefully better sanding discs, so we'll see. So I have quite the contraption set up here. Let me walk you through it. So new disc on. This is a cross slide that I bought at a garage sale that somebody made. So you can see it just has a piece of all thread and it's sliding on that. And then I used some hose clamps to clamp down a drill. So I'm going to have this spinning as I'm going in with this to try to get more of an even, I don't know, let's say 45-ish. So I need to double check my angle here, because I need one side of this to be at an angle and I need the other side to be, I need as much height on it as I can, so it's going to need to be a pretty aggressive angle. So I think I need to like switch this around a little bit, but this is what's going to be going on. So realistically, if you have a lathe, all of this stuff would be a heck of a lot easier to make than the way that I'm doing it, but I'm doing it with the tools that I have available. So yeah. All right, so I readjusted the angle here. Fairly happy with it. We'll see how it goes. And I have a tie wrap on the trigger, and I have it just kind of idling. It's not going too quick. So yeah, we're just gonna try this out and see how she goes. All right, so here we go. I'm gonna plug in the drill. All right, so let's see how she goes. Just gonna turn it in slowly until she makes contact. There it is. All right, just gonna show you. Got a nice angle on it. All right, looks like we wore through in a spot right there. It's not looking too bad, but I think I need to come at this from a different way. See, because I need that angle to be the whole, almost the whole thing, so. All right, I'm gonna come at this from a different way. All right, so here's the change of plan. I got the table at a 45-degree angle, and I'm just gonna work this up like this to try to get the bulk of it out, and then maybe I'll put that cross slide back in to smooth it all out so that it all is pretty uniform. Whew, you can barely hold that one. Got a little thing of water right here. I'd say this is working a little bit faster. Still quite a ways to go though. All right, so I found it's definitely been saving on the belts. If I come down to my grinder, I've been kind of working the angle down. So I've been grinding this face right here and then kind of leaving this side so that way I'm kind of like going like this. So the grinder's focused on this side and then the belt sander is focused on evening the whole thing out. So you can see where the focus of the grind is, right there and not right there. The important thing is to keep it moving. So I got the other one here on a flat piece. I'm gonna grind down this edge until they're level with each other. A while ago I was thinking about making this whole thing out of aluminum, kinda wishing I did now. But once it's made, the stainless will last forever. All right, so I think that's good. So now I'm gonna adjust the angle so that I'm grinding sort of in the middle of this grind right here, because it's like this and then like that. So I'm gonna try to grind off that, and then the disc grinder or the disc sander will just smooth everything out. So you see where we're at now? We're kind of high, so I'll readjust that back in a little bit. Yeah, that's about where I want to be, right in the middle. All right, so now when I go onto the disc sander, once everything is even, it should be exactly in the right spot. All right, so both of those are done with this step. They're all measured out. They look pretty good. So now I have to basically countersink this, but I'll show you in a second. But I got to drill this out 3/8, but not all the way through. So just about halfway through with the 3/8 drill. and then I'm gonna square it off with a 3/8 end mill. All right, so got everything all set up for drilling. Got this right here. I have my stop set so that as soon as we impact, we're gonna barely go into it that much. All right, here we go. So this is a brand new end mill. So this is definitely not the machine to run an end mill on, just so you know. I have everything tightened down as much as it can be, because end mills are so hard that they're brittle. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring it down to the part before I even try to start cutting. I've already locked down the table as much as I can, so it's easier just to do this part, even though I might get more wobble in the whole headstock here. So this part looks pretty good, so I think we're just going to run it in and see what happens. But I don't want to go all the way through, that's for sure. I'm also going to make sure everything is on its slowest. Looks like we are, so it's going to go real slow. Make sure there's a lot of cutting fluid on it. Very constant, steady pressure. All right, I think that's good. So just gonna take this out. See right there, it's an exact 90 down, which is nice. That's what we were going for. I'm gonna blow this out, then test it on the part. All right, so got that all drilled out. There's a nice little shelf in there now. So you can see it's bigger on this side, smaller on that side. So here's the machine down shoulder bolt that I got from McMaster. So that goes in there. That's on this side. Here's the part that we worked on the other day. I'm gonna screw this together now. All right. So the idea of this is the toilet paper roll is going to be riding on this part, right? So this is going to force its way into the cardboard tube. And then the reason for this 45 is I want to have, let me see how I can do it. I want to have an arm right here that as you pull this out, it's going to then lock this out. And then I want to have an arm attached to that, so that when you push up the toilet paper roll, it's also going to push up this arm, and then this will launch forward. So I'm going to probably machine this off and then put a handle right here, so that's going to go through the bushing. So you're going to pull it out, it'll lock itself out, but then when you put the toilet paper roll in, this will lunge forward because there will be a spring right here. So that's the idea so far. This is pretty heavy. After I get it working, I might lighten this up, drilling some, we'll call them decorative holes right here, but we'll see. This still needs to be sanded and finished how this is. So it's just getting a little late right now, so we'll pick this up. But I'm thinking we'll probably be working on the bushing next. The bushing bearing right here. So we'll be working on that to see how much room we actually have, to see whether we need to grind this down or whether we can just chop it off. I did buy these a little bit long, so we'll have to see, but it'll pick you back up. All right, so now we're working back on the end plates. I think I would like to finish all the sanding around to get those knocked down. We are gonna drill more holes right here, right here, right here, right here. And then, but before we drill those holes, I'd like to get this bushing in so that we can kind of put the whole thing together to actually see how it's gonna work. So I'm gonna finish up the sanding right now, and then we'll start in on getting this bushing in. All right, I think that's looking a little bit more better. So this is the one we were sanding, this is the one we still have to sand. Just taking that, rounding off that little corner right there, taking down how thick this is up here, and then just kind of rounding off that one. So I'll get that one to match this one, and then we'll go from there. All right, so after I finish sanding it, I put a nice 45 on here with a reamer, and then I took it over to the flap disc, smoothed it all out right here, because once I press in the bushing, it's going to be hard to smooth all that out and not destroy the bushing. And then I pressed in the bushing. All right, so I'm going to show you how I pressed in the bushing now. All right, so you're going to want to take the side that you're forcing out, or that you're putting the bushing out. I like that 45 because it just feels like it helps that thing to go in, and not to mention it'll all be underneath this, so you won't even see that. So I don't damage the part, I have these two pieces of aluminum that I'm going to put on either sides of the jaw here. Okay. And I'm going to clamp it down. I'm going to get this, I'm just going to push it a little bit so that it wants to stay there. And then I'm going to take a clamp, right, just a C-clamp. And then this is a 1/2-inch socket, but the 1/2-inch socket will actually fit around the outside diameter of the bushing. So you can do this on the vise itself, or you can do this in a press. There's a lot of different ways you could do this. It is a little finicky. You definitely need like 3 hands to do this. You want to make sure you're not pushing it in at an angle. See, right now this feels like it's kind of going in at an angle a little bit. So then, there it goes. So there should be about 5 to 6 thousandths on this of a press. So the bushing should be about 5 to 6 thousandths bigger than your hole. So if you feel any resistance right about when you're getting to the socket, then that means your socket is not lined up. But this one feels fine. Okay. It's pressed in. Okay. Now back it off. Now you'll see that fit inside of that. All right, now let's get our shoulder bolt. Now, if you pressed it too much, you might have to get a reamer. Nope. That's perfect. Okay, so I think we're ready to assemble it for the first time. Obviously, we still need to drill more holes and do some finishing work. I stopped by an Ace Hardware today to pick up these nuts. I just needed some cheap nuts so that we could space everything out, so that we know where to cut the brass tubing and where to put the armatures to release these. But I thought it'd be a good thing right now to just put the whole thing together to see what that currently looks like. All right, now that they're all there, I just made them all relatively the same. So then that way, when we put it together, we're not trying to fight everything. So now so these are the inside nuts. So we're gonna go from the outside in and just tighten it down. And then eventually we'll figure out, we're just gonna go hand tight right now. All right, that's one side done. Now let's put it on the other side. All right, that part's done. Looks pretty cool. All right, now let's put on the spindles. All right, so it's gonna be the shoulder bolt, and then it's gonna be that spring, and then it's gonna be that guy, and then you're gonna use this on the end as a nut. Okay. Shoulder bolt, spring. All right, that's pretty much what we were looking for so far. Now let me grab the roll of toilet paper so we can see how far we got to move in. We got to move in a whole bunch. But by doing this, let's say dry fit, dry setup right now, we're going to see how much space and room we have in all the different spots and locations. All right, so not only do we want it in, but we also want these compressed. Maybe compressed about halfway. So I would say, man, each side's probably going to move in about 1.5 inches, 2 inches. All right, so I'll move it back in and then I'll bring you back. All right, so this is a great dry fit up. Still not fully sure on the width right there, but you see that the springs are compressed with still a little bit more to go, so that's pretty good. Everything is nice and centered, but we see how much room there is over here for all the mechanism that we need to make, so that's pretty cool. I believe I'm going to use these two right here to mount it to the wall. So we're going to have to see how that goes. So it seems like it's going to be better to mount it on the outsides than it is going to be to mount it on the insides. That'll make it more stable, but that means we have to machine more parts. But hopefully that's not as grueling or challenging. So we'll just take that as it comes. And I don't know, it's looking pretty interesting. So I think that'll be it for today. Got some stuff to think about. Got to think about the mechanism a little bit, but you can see how it comes together. So you probably could leave the threaded rod if you're going for that look, but I'm going to put the brass tubes right here and then the acorn nuts on the outside, locking it in. I think it'll be a better look. So the brass tubes will be acting as spacers, and if I cut them all exactly the same length, this whole thing, I won't have to be adjusting everything. It'll just figure itself out. So that's going to be cool. All right, so it is the next day. After some finagling, I've come to a dimension that I'm pretty happy with. So they're exactly 7 inches apart. So the tubes, I'll just need to cut those exactly at 7 inches. But right now I'm working on the armatures because cutting the tubes, I don't think that that's going to be that big of a deal. So the armatures are going to butt up against this and go down. So there's going to be another hole drilled right here. Then I'm going to try to do a blind hole. What that means is it's not going to go all the way through. So from the outside, you shouldn't be able to see it. And I'm going to, as soon as this gets bolted together, this rod that I got right here should be encapsulated in between these two. So I think it'll be a cleaner look, and we'll just have to see how it goes. So I'm going to put that right about here. And then the arm is going to interact right here. So it's going to be spaced out 1 inch, and then dead center from 1 inch out is where the arm is going to go. And then it's going to be another inch to give the arm some stability like this, because when you pull that back, I don't want the whole thing tweaking as much as possible. So the wider it is, the more stable it'll be. And hopefully it'll have a tendency to pop up and lock in, pop up, lock in. And as its resting position is going to be against the 45 right there. So that's first of all what I'm hoping to do. All right, so then let's come over here. All right, so you probably can't see it, but I've already kind of laid out right here the T. So it's right here, and then it's going up right there. I'm cutting it all the way, and that way I'll play with the length later. So cutting it, and then I'm going to drill holes right here so that, and let's call it the armpit of the T's, it'll be nice and rounded. So I'm going to do that first, and then I'm going to cut this out with the bandsaw. So that'll be the next step. All right, so here we go. We're set up on the drill press. I'm going to drill all the holes out in a smaller bit and then progressively get bigger. All right, we got the small hole drilled. It's a lot easier once you have a hole drilled, especially for the bigger drills. They kind of wander a little bit, and it's a lot harder on them to get that initial hole drilled. So it's definitely better for your drills and for everything else if you just start and open it up, unless you're using like an end mill or a carbide drill. Oh, it's cutting butter smooth. Always want to make sure the workspace is clean. Clean as possible anyways. All right, we're going in for the big guns. This is probably going to be problematic, and I probably should clamp it down, but we'll see. All right, got everything all drilled out, put 45s on all of the holes. I was doing that as I was drilling so that the burrs didn't catch on anything, but now we're going to cut these out of the spar. All right. That long cut, and then yeah, I don't know how we're getting into there. It's gonna be bad. Okay. You know, I did want to make this out of aluminum. I did want to. Ow. I'm assuming, don't touch the blade. Yeah, that should be easy to grind off. I don't know if that blade's gonna last another one. Yeah, that's definitely mowed over there. Oh yeah. Yeah, that's pretty good. Did it just flatten all the teeth?
Yeah. That's what it looks like.
Well, that was easy. We're running out of we're throwing machines at it, and we're running out of machines to throw at it. Victory! All right, got them both cut out. It did get a little crazy at the end there. That little blind hole right there. I had some saber saw blades. And I was going in, I was burning up the saber saw blades. Like I had another one, threw that one in there, and just sort of a nightmare. You know, you're getting to the end of a project when you start burning up tools. So the tools are okay, the blades are gone. We did go through one bandsaw blade. I'm actually pretty impressed with that because that was a lot for that. We were adding a bunch of cutting fluid to it, and did figure out that going a little bit slower was probably better than having that at full speed. So yeah, these need to be cleaned up. I'll probably clean them up on the sander, see how that does. That needs to be flattened out. So I'm gonna do all that, and then I'm gonna see about grinding these flat, because the one side of these needs a 45 on it so that it rests on this. So that as soon as you pull this out, this wants to go up and then lock in. So one side needs a 90 and the other side needs a 45. If the bandsaw blade was cutting better, I think I would use it to cut the 45, but it's kind of problematic. So I think what I'm going to try to do is put this in maybe a vise and then use an angle grinder to see if I can't get it most of the way, and then I'll use the big sander to clean it up. So yeah, these blades are pretty good. They actually went through 1/2-inch stainless, so just got to take your time, and I used a bunch of Tap Magic cutting fluid. So, all right. think I'm gonna pack it in for the day, but I'll pick you back up on the next step. Okay, so here's our little fingers or levers coming out. I don't know if you could see it right there, but I scribed a line down the center, and then I'm going to take an exact 90 off of that and go out here. So I'm going to figure out where the center of the hole is and then 90 it off of this. This way I have all the information, so when I drill that hole, this isn't like this or like that. You know, that hole is 90 degrees from the tip of this finger as possible. So so what I'm going to do right now is try to flatten up these edges, so that way when I'm drilling I'm going against something nice and flat rather than something that feels like a record. So yeah, just going to do that real quick. Alright, D-bird. This one side that had all the burrs sticking out. Flatten these up so that they feel better than that. So I'm gonna figure out where I want that hole, and then I'm gonna drill that hole first, because I don't want to go through all this work of making this all perfect and smoothed out if that hole is not absolutely perfect. Because if that hole is slightly off, there's a possibility that I can sand this one direction or another to try to bring it back. So I want to get that hole drilled first, and then we'll worry about everything else. So I'm going to lay out where that hole should be, then you'll catch me at the drill press. Alright, so I wanted to show you a couple of things first. I did get the line that I wanted right there, and then I center punched it right there. So one of the things I wanted to show you was, if you're not sure if you're in the center when you're scribing your line, you can scribe it from one side and then scribe it from the other side. And then right there you'll see that there's two lines, and you'll know that you're in the center of that, so you just got to keep splitting the difference, and eventually you'll find that center. It is a little bit harder to do on this piece because I don't know if you can tell, but this side of the piece is kind of rolled, where this side's a little bit more 90. But that's an easy way to do it. If you have if it's square on both sides, you can scrape from both sides, and if both lines line up, good to go. All right, so now let me show you what I got going on over here. All right, so I got the other piece all in the vise. Okay, so that scribed line that I put down the center, I put it just on the edge of the vise right there, so that I know that this is parallel 90 to that, so that's pretty good. And then one thing I was doing was, I don't know if you could see that there's a scribed line going down the center of the part, so then I put this directly back from it, so that I know, okay, so if it starts drilling right there, and that's exactly where I want it because it's lined up with the scribed line. So then if I keep drilling, is it going to go off? Nope, good to go that way. So then this way I also have the scribed line. So then I just line it up to that, and then the center of that drill bit is following that line the whole way down. I think that's as best as I'm going to be able to do in this scenario without having a mill. So I'm pretty happy with that. So what I'm going to do now, I'm probably going to get this all lined up, and then I'm going to actually bolt down the vise, and then we're going to pray and then hope it goes well. All right, so let's get this as lined up as it can be. All right, so I'm not going crazy with that bolt. I'm just kissing it a little bit, because if you tighten it down too hard on one side, you have a tendency that it could do something odd on the other side, like prop it up. So, all right, let's see how this is gonna go. All right, all the way through. That took about, I don't know, over 20 minutes. So that's pretty good. All right, now I'm probably gonna drill this one out to the larger size hole, So I have two options. I can put a kind of like a brass tube in here and have the brass tube riding against the other stainless piece, or I can have this stainless piece riding against the other stainless piece. So it's not going to make that big of a difference. I'll just do the smaller diameter first, and then it gives me the option to go up to the larger one. All right, this should throw a lot more chips, but another thing I would say is make sure to over tighten your vise. And what I mean is the scribed line that I lined up to the jaws of the vise right here, when you're pulling down on this, if this isn't super tight, you could move that, and then that's going to throw off everything. You're going to have to start all over. And depending on how far you are, you might have to start over with your piece. So I would tighten this, and then that's why I was going slow, so I wasn't putting so much pressure on this to overcome the vise. So just a little tip there. I'm also going to take this one slow, because it's probably going to be flinging a lot of shards here, or chips. All right, that's all the way through. All right, so I'm going to take this one off, and then I'm going to put the other one on, drill it, do everything I've done to this one, and then I'll pick you back up. All right, got that all done. They're both drilled. I think they both look pretty good. This how this side kind of rounded off, it's kind of throwing off the look of the hole, but I'll grind those flat and machine them in. But here's this brass tube, and then here's this rod that's going to go from one side to the other. So these are going to be sliding or pivoting off of that. And the thing I definitely didn't want was for these to be all, and it seems like they are exactly where I need them. So the next step is to start sanding them and shaping them so that they will fit, and then we'll drill the two blind holes in those two side plates so that this fits in, and we can start dialing everything in. All right, we are all set up to do some hand grinding, or some angle grinding. So I have it set up right here. I'm going to try to get this pretty flat to start out. So we're going to see how it goes with the angle grinder. Also going to try to get this all flushed off, these flushed off. So I'm going to try to rough everything in as much as I can before trying to do everything on the sander. So we're going to see how well the angle grinder does. All right, so that's pretty much it. Just trying to break down all of these ridges from the saw. You can see everything relatively smooth. Still needs to be figured out. Trying to square it up, but just trying to make sure that it's a little easier for the saw. But all right, I'm just going to keep going at this, and then I'll bring you back. All right, well, I got the grinding relatively done there. I was kind of actually hoping that the grinding wheel would do a little better. I don't know, maybe it's clogged or something, but if it got clogged, then I'm probably just going to clog it again. Right now is where a mill would outshine everything, because it would be able to square up everything. It would look nice. It would be able to do the 45 pretty easily. I'm still unclear how I'm going to do that 45 on these pieces. Let me see if I can't show you, because this one's still, you know, like 1,000 degrees. So here's the main problem is I can't actually sand the whole thing. So now technically it doesn't need to be a 45 until the end, so maybe I'm just gonna go with that. But I am a little not liking that I can't get up in there. So we're just gonna have to see what we can do with the tools that we have. But all right, maybe once these cool down, I'll start sanding them. All right, that side that was rounded, it's now at least squared off from here to there. So it could stand a little bit right here, but I think we're going to do shaping anyway, so you're probably going to hide that. But the main thing was right here, because it definitely bumped out. So now it's a little bit more squared off, which I think looks a little bit nicer. So I think we're going to see what other kind of sanding or shaping we can do on this, but we're probably going to go to the flapping wheel though. All right, here's where we're at. I was using the flapping wheel right there. I'm not super excited about the way they're coming out. I mean, this looks a little bit better than it did. This side's got kind of a bulge right here, and it's kind of hard to get that exact spot on the sander there because it's because of the guard. All right, so it's the next day. I've been working on these. What I did was I took a square and then put it right there and then scribed a line on the part to see all like the little hills and valleys that there were from the sander. I was using the grinder to take most of those down, and then I brought it over to the sanding disc. I can't get all the way there because of the guard. I was looking to see if I could take it out, but can't really take it out. But I feel like they look a lot better than they did yesterday. So I'm pretty excited about that. The other thing I did was I took, these are called 1, 2, 3 blocks, and they're all machined. So I put one up against this so that I would be 90, and then I butted the other one up against this one, and then I clamped that one down. So this right here should be exactly 90, and I was just kissing the ends of these to make sure that they're all nice and squared up. Because if this is square and that's square, then everything should be lined up fine. So I thought I would bring you in to show you that part. So you're pushing it up against the block when you go in. And you can see right there, this part was a little higher than that part. So that side's good. Now let's do this side. So there's that part. So I'm not sure how interesting it's going to be to just watch me keep trying to shape these down. More than likely, this part is going to get rounded because of where it's at. There's going to be washers and spacers right here that are all going to be round anyway, so it might have a better look if this was round. This will always stay square because it needs to, because this side is going to have the 45 on it, and then this side is going to have a 90, and then it'll be the mirror image on this side, which will be a 45 and then a 90. So I might do that part now. I got to line everything up. These are already probably too long, so they probably need maybe 3/4 to a whole inch cut off, but I was going to wait for all that. But yeah, so I'm just going to keep shaping these with the grinder, the flap disc, all of that, just to get them rounded and smooth. Keep bringing you back in at any milestones. All right, I think we're going to move on to just drilling out this blind hole with the, I don't know, we'll call that the axle. So this will be living in that place. So what I'm going to do is measure the distance down that I cut these holes in, and then split the difference between these two holes so that it's in the center, and then just call that good. So as you can see, this one is way too long. Realistically, probably 1.5 inches could be cut off of that, actually. So yeah, and then this side is lining up perfectly as well. So what I got to do is I'll probably leave the center nuts and just take off the outer nuts, and then unscrew everything. All right, got it all set up here in the drill press. The bushing right here, even though it sticks out, it fits nicely in between right here. So that's pretty cool. So all right, now we're gonna drill this out. Remember, you're not gonna go all the way through. Yeah, I think I'm pretty happy with that. Alright, so with the calipers, I measured in each side and then added it up. Our holes go in about 1/8 of an inch on each side. So I need to cut the rod. I need to cut it to 7" and 7 1/4. Both of these add up to 7" 260. So I'll cut it right around there and then just sneak up on it as I'm sanding it down. So that's where we're at from now. Alright, so we're just a little bit oversized. I'd rather be there and then I can sneak up on it. Alright, so there it is. There's the axle all plugged in. So I'm probably going to cut the that brass piece to 7 inches and we'll see how it goes. This is the brass piece. I'll cut it to 7, even though I'm probably still going to chop it in half, but as long as it's 7, it should be fine. Alright, so this has still a ton of dialing in, so we're going to have to figure all that out. So I was thinking that I might cut this rod in the center and then glue these to the rod, maybe with some JB Weld or something, and then I was going to have washers, brass washers, space this out so it would ride against like a brass washer. So we're still looking at that. Just going to figure out all the dimensions, where everything should be, where it should be. This axle seems to be nice and encapsulated, so I'm happy about that. Was a little tricky to get together, but we got it together. So yeah, now it's going to be figuring out the correct spacing for all of this, and then once I figure out the spacing for that, then that's going to dictate the 45s for those. So yeah, just got to figure all that part out, but I'll bring you back when I figure all that out. Alright, so it's the next day. I got all this lined up. I put some brass washers in here. I like where it's at. I think it's time to actually cut down the length of these. So I think I'm going to shave off 1 inch so that when this, you could see that it would just be over here that it would be impacting, which I think would be plenty. So I think 1 inch is going to be good to shave off of that. So I'm going to take them out and then probably just cut them on the bandsaw and then smooth them out on the disc sander and then see what we come up with. I'll probably maybe round it this way and round it this way, so give it some styling. And then those pieces, maybe I'll use those as the flap coming over. I'm not sure yet, but yeah, we'll check that part out. All right, so the trick is to just take it slow and don't push too hard, and I think it works best if I keep putting cutting fluid on it. We'll see. She's all cut. And then now what I do is I come over to the sander, and then I'm still using that 1-2-3 block, cleaning off all the burrs, and then I'm going to push this up against it and then push it in there to square off the end. I'll deburr it first though. I'm double checking its length to the other one I cut, and it looks like they're dead on the money. So happy about that. So then now I'm just going to round off the end there. All right, so now I'm just gonna put the whole thing back together so that we can see how everything's interacting, and then we can start moving on to the next steps. All right, that looks much better, and now these are not impacting that, so they should never come up that high. If we need to cut them again, we can, but I was actually thinking about doing some kind of interesting rounding thing on there. We'll see how well that works out. I'm thinking that looks pretty good. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to measure the gap right here for the spacer, and I'm just using the same tubing that I'm going to use over here. So I should have enough left over for the spacer piece right here. I'm also going to put some of these brass washers on either side right here, so it has something to write against. So I'm gonna cut that now, and then take it apart and then put that in, and then these should not be able to push sideways. And if that's so, then everything should go pretty well. So let's cut this out first, and then we'll take this apart and put it in. All right, so I cut on the other side of my line so that I can sand it and sneak up to it. As you can see, it's a little bit oversized from what I wanted. So now I'm gonna go onto the sander, and I left that 1, 2, 3 block. And now I'm just going to sand this a little bit. I'll probably deburr it. Remember, this is soft, so you don't want to go too crazy. Okay, I left it about 5/1000 too big, just in case. Now, this is going to need something else because it's going to be kind of wonky in there. So this might need another bushing so that this stays centered, but that's not necessarily a problem for today. Okay, so everything's going to be much tighter than it once was. Alright, so this is what I was saying, how this needs probably to be centered, but I have an idea of how to center that. It's not a big deal. It's just keeping the width right now, so now these can't move in. So we should be able to lock these out now, like that, and like that. So now it's locked out, which is perfect. And now we can take some better measurements. So that's just over, it's like 4" 100,000ths. And the toilet paper roll is 4". So now we can start to try to figure out how we're gonna get these released when you push up the toilet paper roll. All right, so I think I figured out what I'm gonna do. I cut out these pieces. I don't know if you remember from over here, the other piece that was right here on the other side of all of this. Well, these were the remnants of that. So the center part was right here, and I just chopped it out. I think these are going to make some nice little registers right, let's say right there. So these will be riding along the top of the toilet paper the whole time. I'm going to round them and make them really nice so that they just are kind of like skis on the toilet paper until it gets past this point, but it should add another level of friction. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to shape these so that they are similar. So this one's obviously a little bit bigger, so I'm going to try to sand this one down until it's about that size, and then I'm going to square this one off. The parts that are on the toilet paper themselves definitely should be round, so this is already part of that outer radius, so I'll probably just try to go with that. And then yeah, I think this is gonna work out well. They'll probably end up being like one like that and one like that, the toilet paper right there in the center, and then Probably it'll be bolted on, bolted on, bolted on, bolted on, and I think it should work well. I don't think we need a lot there, so we're just going to go with that. We're going to need a little bit of a 45 on this, just so when you're coming up with the toilet paper, it wants to center instead of getting caught on those edges. So I think that's we'll have to do there, but I'm just going to grind and sand those up until they are closer to the right shape, but I'll bring you back in. All right, so I got these both sanded down. They are all, it's just the top that's a slightly different, but I was going to do a lot of shaping there anyways. So these are perfect. One got a little bit hotter because it was a little bit bigger, so I had to grind it a little bit more. All right, so this is the outside of the circle up here from the pieces that were down here. So what the thought of these are, not only would this be incredibly rounded on the bottom, maybe even a 45, and then round it on the sander like that so that it's like a half circle, but these guys are going to go somewhere on here so that when you're pushing up the toilet paper, these will disengage these arms, and then they'll probably end up riding against the toilet paper at the top until you use enough where it'll start riding on that. Let me show you by getting the toilet paper out. All right, so the toilet paper's out. So as you're putting it up, you're going to want the arms to disengage when these circles are relatively almost center. They don't need to be perfectly center because they will self-adjust when they launch in. But you could see right there, we're not lined up. But what we could do is, instead of having the flapper all the way at the front of the arm, we can move it back so that it engages at a different time. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to push these up to the edge just to see where the last bit of engagement would be, and then this will help show me where I should put these little flappers so that as soon as they're in the prime location, boom, these launch in, and then your toilet paper is automatically loaded. I don't know, I think that would be pretty cool. So I'm going to keep working on that and figure out where that should be. So we're going to drill 2 holes, and then we're going to drill 2 holes here and thread it. Probably won't go all the way through because we're not going to need to. So we're going to try that out currently and see how well that works. But I'm going to sit here and ponder and think about where this should be, and then we'll pick you back up. All right, I had a cool little breakthrough. So I have this really deep C-clamp, and I have it holding on that piece. So let's reset it. Okay, so the other one is fully set. Okay, now I'm holding it. Now I have this spaced in 800 thousandths. So toilet paper's coming up. Okay, so it's between the 2 rolls. You can see it right there. Okay, I keep pushing. Fully locked in and engaged. So I feel like 800 thousandths is pretty good. It locks in nice. So we're just going to round that off. So it'll probably be even, the more we take off of that, the more it's going to, you're going to need to push it up more. So I might need to pull it out. I'm going to think about that right now, but I think we're pretty close. I'm pretty excited about that part. All right, so now I'm ready to drill the holes. I marked out exactly where I'm going to put the holes. So I basically just put them 200 thousandths over, 200 thousandths down, and that seemed to look good with the little acorn nuts I have for them. So now I center punch them, and now we're just gonna drill it out. So when you're putting this on a vise like this, you're definitely gonna want to put it in the center, clean the vise out So these are parallels. They come in all different kinds of sizes. I could show you here. Here's a whole set of them. And basically what it does is it keeps your part level. So now I'm just pushing down on the part as I'm tightening it. You want to make sure your vise is really tight on such a small piece, and then you just pull out your parallels, and now that's completely level and parallel. All right, now that we got the pilot hole drill, or the pilot holes drilled, now we're going to step up to the final size bit. All right, all drilled out and very hot. All right, so now I've got a countersink on there, and I'm going to clean off all of I'm going to clean the holes. All right, so both of these pieces are all done. They're still going to need a lot of rounding and shaping and stuff like that, but they're good enough to test and bolt back on. So these are clearance for an 832. So I have them a little tight, which I like. And on top of these is going to go an acorn nut. So I'm going to cut this bolt and basically make a piece of all thread with it. And then that's how it'll look once it's bolted in. I think that looks pretty cool. All right, so the next step is to disassemble the whole thing and the fingers. These are what I'm calling the fingers. And to line these up, I think I might go with either 700 thousandths or 750 of these back. So probably somewhere in that range. And then I'm gonna drill this out, tap it, and then bolt these in, and then make sure the whole thing works. And then at that point, I think we're on to shaping and cleaning everything up. I want to drill all those other holes in here. I might drill some holes in here just to give it a better aesthetic and make it a little bit lighter. These right here, I'd like to drill some holes going around just so it looks better and it'll be lighter. And then the mounting mechanism that's going to go right here. Those are going to be some of the bigger cuts I have to make with the bandsaw. Hopefully it lasts. But yeah. But all right, so I'm going to pick you back up when I'm got this back apart. All right. I got them all lined up. You can see I center punched the holes right there. I just got to drill it out. Now I'm tapping this part to 832. So also want to make sure that you're doing these the right way. And this is I double and triple check this. So just got to drill these out, and then we'll run the tap through. All right, we got those drilled. Now let's go tap it. All right, so I've already broken a tap, but praise God, I was able to get it out, or he was able to get it out. A pointed tap like this is gonna be a little bit easier to start, but since these holes don't go all the way through, one of these flat ones is gonna be able to get you threads down further, if that makes any sense. Definitely want to make sure you're using a ton of tapping fluid. I also like to deburr the edge. I feel like it helps the tap to go in. All right, so you just want to pull down, keeping good pressure on it. You should feel friction, but at the same time it shouldn't feel like something's binding. All right, that feels about as far as it'll go on both sides. All right, let me get the screws. All right, let's stick our little flapper here. All right, obviously these need to be cut down quite a bit. I'm going to see if I can't find some shorter 832s just for testing. These will be the ones that I'll run in there, and then I'll chop them down and then put the acorn nuts on top. But just for testing, so that we can test it to make sure everything is in the correct spot, I'll see if I can't find just some shorter 832s that'll hold this directly in place. And then I'll put it back together and bring it back in for the testing. All right, got those pieces on. So pull it, lock it out, lock it out. Okay, now we're putting the almost destroyed, caught on fire toilet paper roll in here. So I'm just gonna set that up. So I just need to get all these sharp edges off, and then the toilet paper roll, and I'm still gonna do a 45 right here, as big as I can go, so that when you're going in, you're not catching on that 90 degree. But if you line it up just right and you go in, there it is. Look at that. Pretty sweet, huh? All right. So now it is time to take the whole thing apart, start to do all the finishing work on there, because the mechanism works, so we're good to go there. So I want to round off these. I want to break all the edges, smooth out all the grind marks. Right here, I want to drill a smaller hole, similar to this, and then 2 bigger holes right here, just to give it a different aesthetic. And then on these right here, I'd like to drill some holes going around, just so that it's lighter and it looks a little bit better. It looks like a little bit more detail into it. That'll probably be about it. So I'll probably do some time lapses showing me doing stuff, but you've already seen me do a lot of the grinding and drilling of the holes, but so you don't need to see everything in detail, because it's going to be just a smaller carbide cutter right here, and then a bigger one, and a smaller one. So you'll see everything as it's happening, but bring it back in when all that's done. Alright, so just bringing you back in, because that was a lot of work. So let me catch you up on it. So I had to figure out the trigonometry of putting 5 holes in here. I like that look. I wanted 5 rather than 4. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. Everything still needs to be kind of washed and scrubbed, but so those shoulder bolts, I sanded those down as you saw, and then I drilled this out, this little handle, as big as it could go. Was still leaving threads for the set screw, and then what I did was I put this on, and then I put the set screw in so the set screw would mark the screw, and then I popped it out, I center punched it, and then I drilled a divot in there so that it would have something to lock against. But I might sand the back side of these, because they're still like that gold bronze color. I don't know, it's kind of cool, and I don't know if I like it or not. I also like the way that these 45s, these countersinks, turned out. So yeah, so both of these I would say are done-ish. I worked them pretty good on the flapper wheel, smoothing them out, trying to take all the imperfections out. I think they look about as good as they could and should. So I'm happy with those. Those are done. So now I think it's on to these guys, where we're going to do the big holes, drill them out. First I got to find which ones we're doing, drill them, and then from there I'll drill them out, and then we'll hit these, probably this side, I don't know if you could see it. It was like I think it was laser cut or something, but it's got kind of like a bit of an angle on there. I kind of want to take that off, so we'll take that off over here, and then we'll do all the shaping up on the flapper wheel again. So I would say these are next, and then I would say it's those guys, and then last but not least will be the mount, but probably before that will be all of the brass tubes for these. But yeah, so that's where we're currently at. So I'm gonna mark out where I want these, and then we're gonna dive into it, start drilling. All right, so we got the mounting piece all lined up in the vise. You can see that it's just two pieces butted together. I'm hoping to drill half of one side, half of the other. We have the vise clamping on the bottom and then two machinist clamps on the top. And we've lined everything up. We've checked our drill that it'll go straight all the way down. Everything's squared and level, so we're just gonna run this in and see how it goes, and hopefully we don't break it or hurt anything. And then as soon as the holes are drilled, we're gonna have to take it out, cut both pieces in half again, and then drill another hole, and then that should be it, other than some shaping, but we'll see. All right, next day. I cleaned these up on the Dremel off camera. So all these holes that had a little bit of a burr on them, cleaned them up. So these still need a finish grind at a higher sand grit, a finer sandpaper grit. But when we left you, we were drilling this, and I don't know if you can tell from the video, but we broke multiple drills, and it did not go as well as I was hoping, but I think I can save it. So you can tell how deep it is on that side. And so it's a little bit deeper on this side than that side, but that's probably the best one. The worst one is this one. Look how shallow it is right there, how deep it is right there. So these are actually undersized for what I need, so I think I can fix it. And how I'm going to fix it is I'm going to get the grinder and come in here and start to grind it out. I actually scribed a line of where I should be. So I'm going to get the grinder, start grinding it out, see if I can't do a lot of it, and then maybe I can smooth it out with the drum sander on the Dremel. So we'll see. Right, so I decided to, after the grinding was taking a long time, I decided just to line it up and try to run a bigger drill through it. And it worked on the first hole, so let's see how it goes on the second hole. All right, that's broken through. Now let's go check it out. All right, let's see. Ooh. Okay, well that looks better. Here's one of the tubes. Oh yeah. All right, so I think that that's just going to need some minor cleaning up, or we go for one size bigger on the drill bit. Because right now I could put a 45 with the hand grinder, and maybe that'll fit in there better. But I'm going to keep sneaking up on it like that until it encapsulates this. Because if I go too big, then I have to surface grind off this because it needs to be able to clamp on here. So the way a machine shop would do this is they would drill this exact diameter down, and then they would surface grind off of here, so that it would have a clamping force on there. Since I don't have a surface grinder, I'm trying to sneak up on it and do it a different way. All right, so you just saw the time lapse of me. I was grinding on these. I was using the big sander, and then I was actually getting a little bit better results with this flapper wheel. And then I got these pieces out, and I think they're starting to look pretty good, nice and shiny. I don't know that I want to go too shiny because there is a polishing side right there. I could polish them, but I don't know that I want to do that. And then I was spiffing these up a bit. So this is like a 3M. So it's like a Scotch-Brite and then little pieces of sandpaper in between. This seemed like it was less aggressive than that. So it was kind of giving it like even a little bit more of a luster. So I don't know how much further I want to go than that. These are looking pretty good. These are good too. I think from now, I think it's time to actually assemble this because these mounting brackets are going to be very pivotable. Anyways, they're going to be intricate to how this whole thing works and mounts. So any further modification from here, and if they don't work or, something like that, it's just going to be a waste of time. So I think it's time to put this together, put the rod through, and then cut all of the brass tubing, cut everything, and then cut the all thread to the right length, and pretty much do maybe a dry fit and then like a final assembly of this whole thing. Because I believe we're there. Because then once this is together, locked in, tight, squared up, all of that, then we can start to put these mounts on there and start to dial the mounts in, breaking the edges, sanding them if we need to waller out these holes at all. Kind of make these look like anything other than pieces of bar, even though they are just going to be pieces of bar. But so yeah, I believe that that's where we're at currently. And there's a whole bunch of little finishing projects like cutting the threads to length and putting the acorn nuts on these and Loctiting them in so that these are done. I was able to polish the inside of this pretty aggressively with this wheel. It feels buttery smooth. So that's going to be what's riding against the toilet paper roll. I was kind of acting like it's going to be a ski, so don't want any binding right there. Same with this one. So yeah, just bringing you in to show you what the process is currently. I got to hurry up because we're leaving in a couple of days, and I want to have this in the trailer. So I'm kind of at a time crunch currently. But everything is looking pretty good because I think that these are going to be fairly easy to chop down. I'm going to use a chop saw and see how that goes. But yeah, so I'll bring you in once I'm chopping everything up. Okay, so I have the chop saw set up, and I have the a 1, 2, 3 block as a stop. And I just cut one. So they need to be 7-inch 100,000ths. And that's exactly where I'm at. Because if I take this right here and measure it from the inside, we are 7-inch 100,000ths. So can't beat that. We are perfectly good there. I am ready to cut, everybody. If you don't have a lot of these extra, it's better to cut it a little bit long. But so when you're cutting softer metal on a chop saw, definitely want to go slow. Just hold it, close your eyes, all that. All right, because of the fence, you see those are perfect. And that's the accuracy we're looking for to bolt everything together. But let me cut all these and then I'll bring you back in. All right, so now I got all the pieces cut and I'm going to just deburr them on this wheel because it's nice and soft rather than the big flapper wheel. So yeah. All right, on to the next step. The next step is going to be cutting the all thread. Now, we have to keep in mind that we need to leave not only enough space to go through this, which is 1/4 inch, so 1/4 inch on each side, and then into the acorn nut as much as possible as well. So I'm going to measure that, figure that out, and I'll bring you back in when we're cutting them. All right, so I think I figured out the measurements. So the brass tubes were cut to 7-inch 100 thousandths. These side plates are 1/4 inch thick each. So that's 250 plus 250. So that's 500 thousandths. And then they actually go into the acorn nuts about 400 thousandths, probably a little bit on the bias there. So I'm cutting this slightly bigger than they need to be because we can always kiss these and sand them down where the brass tubes need to be absolutely perfect. So just letting you guys know the rationale of that. All right, there we go. Got them all cut. I'm going to deburr them now, and then we'll bring you back in for a dry assembly. That basically means that we're not going to put Loctite on anything. We're just going to double check everything, and that's where I'll bring you back in. All right, we're here. It's the next day. We're going to do that dry assembly I was talking about. We're doing this so that we can figure out whether the mounts, how well they're going to line up before we do any more shaping. And at this point, I'm just very excited to put this together. So I'm thinking that we'll start from one end, put on these acorn nuts. Okay. So these are going to be Loctited on. Oh man. All right, so what I'm thinking is we'll put the ends on. Now I may need to sand the pieces of all thread down a little bit. I wanted them to be, I'd rather them be longer than shorter. So that's probably going to be the case, but oh yeah, we need to shape them down. So we're going to have to do that. So I think it looks like they're about 100 thousandths too long, but that's fine. We should be able to fix that on the sander. Okay, now I'm going to try to put this whole thing in as an assembly. We'll see how that goes. Not sure how well this whole thing's going to stay together if I can't get those other things tight. And that was not ideal. Maybe I'll put in one more right here. Definitely feel like a lot of this is going to need some tweaking, I guess would be the term. I think the issue is these threaded rods are just that hair too long. All right, so this is about to just fall out because we can't keep it stable. All right, so, I mean, that's looking pretty sweet. All right, so what we came here to do was test out these brackets to see how close they are, see how close they're not. So they're going to be mounting over here. Oh, we're really close, which is exciting. So you can see right there, that's how close we are. So all right, so I would say that side is good. Now let's go with this side. So yeah, so this is what's going to be flat against the wall. Like that. I'm going to try to put some more shape to these and make them look a little bit nicer, but yeah, I kind of feel like the top needs to be rounded. So maybe we'll round the top and round the bottom. But pretty excited about those. So I guess we'll put in one of the sides so that we can really get the full look of how it's going to look on the side. Now a lot of this still needs to be cleaned up, just kind of wash, get all the sanding goo off of it. Oh, come on. Like that is awesome looking. All right, so I would say if we want to test this any longer, the next steps are going to be, we got to shrink down all the threaded rod, which I'm okay with because I was concerned about cutting these too short. I want as much thread engagement as possible. And looks like I just got to sniff off another 100 thousandths. Not a big deal. And then we will start shaping these, rounding the tops, rounding the bottoms, maybe even rounding this side right here to get any of the other sanding and cutting marks off. And then these guys will be pretty well done too. I was thinking that we'd either go 1 bolt in the middle or 2 bolts, I'm not sure, but I was thinking the extra threaded rod that we had, I was thinking that could be cool right there. So I'm not sure if I want to go 1 or make it harder on myself and go 2. You know what I mean? So we'll see what I come up with. I don't think it technically needs to. I think 1 would probably be more than sufficient, but we'll see what I come up with. All right, we'll pick you back up when we are grinding on these and when we are sanding these threaded rods down. Now that the threaded rods are all chopped down into the right size, it's actually pretty sturdy just with 2 on, and I haven't really torqued these down yet, so I'm pretty excited about that. All right, so now I was getting the feeling like the width of these might be just a tiny bit too much because you can barely see that poking out right there, but maybe it's fine. We'll see. Well, I don't know. That holds it pretty good. we're gonna know, because I had these all perfectly spaced out with washers and all that. So also I'm not sure that I actually have any more washers. We did 3 on one side. We did 1 in the middle, spacer tube, then 1, then this one. Okay, and then 3 on the end. This is where it gets complicated to get in there. All right, that side's in. All right, well, it's in. Let me tighten this side back down. Man, with these being the actual right sizes, man, that makes a world of difference. How much it's being held together. All right, so maybe this will add just that bit of support right there. That's not bad. Last one, tube is on. There. All right, we'll tighten everybody down. Oh, yeah. Feeling that. So I still need to center this one, but that'll be on the finished assembly. I'll show you how I'm going to do that. So now I think it's time to send in the 2 side pieces so that that way we can make sure everything is actually functioning as it did before we start doing anything else. Make sure those are on that side. Push that through. That on there. This on here. Obviously, these are going to be Loctited, and then all of these are going to be Loctited, but let's see. Uh-oh. It's working. Let me go get a toilet paper roll so that we can confirm all this. Oh, man. You guys see that? Was that awesome or what? What a great feeling that is. So we still need to put the proper bolts right here, but oh man, that's pretty awesome. All right, so I think what we're gonna do right now is we'll probably do the right bolts right here. So I'm actually taking some screws, chopping them off, and then making them just the right height, and then I have some smaller acorn nuts, so I'm gonna do that right now. But man, so all of our dimensions are still working. Everything is still good. So that's pretty exciting. Okay, so these are the long bolts. So I'm basically just gonna figure out the length and then just cut off the tops, smooth it around. So then that way, I'm basically just using these for the threaded rod aspect, because trying to find brass threaded rods, that's something else right there. All right, so they probably need to be the length plus however much this is going to go inside the head. It would be nice to have as much engagement as possible. All right, so that plus this, I'll see what that adds up to, but that looks like it might be just about right. So the easiest way might be to just put on the acorn nut, and then we're going to put it on right in there, and then screw it down as much as we can. It's like a 5/16 socket is where it's at. So when you're dealing with screws this small, you really want to be careful, because you can easily break them. Oh, well, that's fun. It just popped the head off of the acorn nut. And luckily, this package only included 4. Wow. I'm gonna have to remedy that, I guess. Look at that. It just popped it right off. That was terrible. Well, I'm guessing that is definitely too long then. There's still enough on that other screw to unscrew it, but... So I'm gonna cut this again, and we'll see how we get along here. I can't believe it just broke the head off that so easily. And for some reason, I couldn't find any brass screws at Home Depot. I could only find them at Lowe's. The Lowe's is quite a bit further away from me. Anyways, that's more of the look that I was going for. I just can't believe that thing just snapped off like that, though. All right, so I'm just gonna at least get them all cut so that they can work, and then I'll have to make another trip to Lowe's, unfortunately. All right, so got them all nice and ground and polished up as much as I would like to do. So here's the end cut of those threaded rods. So I drilled that hole as you saw in the time lapse. Figured now we would mildly assemble it just to make sure we are all good here. All right, so what I'm gonna do now is I'm going to take this apart, and then I'm going to see how much sanding I can do to get 2 more washers on the inside right here. And then from there, I think we're in the final assembly stage. When me and my wife were testing it out, these springs might be a little bit too stiff. I did order some lighter springs when I ordered these ones, just in case. So we might try those ones out as well. But so I'm going to take this out, and then I'm just going to sand this down just slightly so that I can fit another washer in there. Okay, so I found out how I want to do these. I feel like it's the so far the easiest way. So if I get a nut onto the thread beforehand, so I'm just going to drive the nut up, and then I'm going to put a bunch of red Loctite on this. And then I'm also putting red Loctite down in the hole. So red Loctite is the supposedly permanent. So then what this allows me to do, compared to the other way I was doing it, allows me to just really torque this in there and bottom it out. So we'll do that with the other one. Get it in the hole. So this is brass screws with stainless steel. So they are not dissimilar metals, so they shouldn't corrode each other, but I don't know if you put the Loctite in there, what that's going to do. All right, so what the nuts are going to do, they're going to after I cut it, they're going to roll over that burr on there, so I don't have to worry about trying to resand them once they're in. And then I also use the nuts as just sort of a guide. So I try to cut right about where those nuts are at on the bandsaw. So I'm going to do that. So as soon as I cut it off, and then I can unscrew those screws, and then it should come right off. All right, so just got those. Now you just unscrew them. The burr should not be there, so that's good. And now, make sure everything's clean. Still need to go get one more acorn nut, but that looks perfect. It looks like it'll fit just underneath there. And then because I unscrewed a nut on there, these should maybe a little bit easier go on. I'll at least get the one on, So I'm going to Loctite that, and then I will put some on the acorn nut as well. Okay, that looks like too much. I left some slop in the holes right here so that I could line it up when I'm tightening it up. Gotta be careful not to push down too hard or else you'll put like little scratches. Especially the more polished you get, the more polished you polish your part, obviously. All right, so that looks good. And now I'm just missing that other acorn nut, which I will pick up either tonight or on the way home from church tomorrow. All right, so that looks good. So now over here, what we're gonna do is we are going to clean one half of all the threads, and then we're going to run the bigger acorn nut all the way in with Loctite. And then from there, we should be ready to start assembling it. These pieces we're gonna wait a little bit on until it's like fully together, because we did notice with the rolls of toilet paper, when it's a little bit bigger, those springs might have just a little bit too much tension on them, and I might use those lighter springs. So yeah, I'm gonna start cleaning the screws, and then we'll start putting Loctite. So definitely recommend cleaning. It'll help the Loctite to set better, especially because all of these usually come with, you can see right there, whether it's the cutting oil that they use to make these, not sure. So just clean both ends. That Loctite will stick a lot better. Also, since these have been sitting in the sun all day, they're nice and hot, so that's kind of fun. So I prefer alcohol. You could actually use acetone as well. That works definitely just as good. So we're going to take each one. I'm going to put it on the nut, and then I'm also going to put it on the threads of the shaft as well. Just make sure I got a lot of coverage. And then I'm going to run it in. Oh. And then I'm going to clean off the excess off the edge. So otherwise it'll squirt out and be on the part as well. So I'd rather just have it right there. All right, that's nice and tight. So that one's done. And then we'll just keep going on. All right, so this is going to seem a little bit unconventional, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this out and I'm going to roll packing tape on this until it is spaced in the middle. This surprisingly works well. Now, it does help if you're as flat as possible. Just roll it up until you get the diameter. Now, I don't want this tight. I just want it in the center. So we can check right there. See already? Look at that. So I think we'll go just a tiny hair more. So you could drill out a spacer, you could do all that stuff. Oh, see, now that's like dead perfect. I don't know if I want it that tight, but man, it's like, I don't know if I could have gone one more thing around that. So I think that makes that perfect now. So we'll try that out to see what happens. We have all those washers right there that is going to take up a lot of the slack, or allow a little bit more movement. So I think we're ready at this point to start putting everything together and Loctite the outsides of those, the bolts right here. So on the other side. So that's what we're moving towards right now. So I did sand that down. So now we have room for 2 washers in the center. Okay, then on the outside, this one right there. We have our shaft that goes in between. So it's the shaft right here that actually locates on these 2 plates. Let me see if you could see it right there. So it actually sticks out about that much on either side. So now we're going to put 3 washers on each side. Okay. There's 3 washers each side. Okay, so now we're going to do what we did before, which was we got these ready to go in. All right, so sending that down there, this right here, and now we're going to get Loctite, and we're going to put it on the ends. All right. All right, so those are pretty tight. I want to make sure I can get this shaft on. So I'm going to check to make sure this part first before we start getting too crazy here. There should be just enough flex in the whole armature. There it is. Yeah, see, that has a nice amount of movement. These guys are still free. All right. So I'm going to come back and tighten everything down with a wrench after this stage. All right, so here we go. These don't feel quite as free-flowing as they did, but they feel a lot more precise, if you know what I mean. So I'm going to go get some wrenches, and then I will be back, and we will tighten this down. All right, so got my 2 9/16. I think we should also keep in mind that if you bottom this out against this, you might put a circle scratch in it. So I'd probably be careful against that and not to actually bottom it out all the way. All right, just a nice little torque there. Now we're going to see if I torque these down, is that shaft in the middle that is encapsulated by both of those, is it going to bind up? Which I hope not. So far not, and that's a good sign. So there's a little bit of floating right there. I feel like if it starts to wear itself in, or even like a tiny bit of oil in there, see, it's already getting looser. So let's see. Yeah, it's already starting to feel lighter. It's like if you see right there, it kind of binds a little bit. Oh, you know what it is? I think it's the whole assembly binding. So if they, let me see. So I think maybe if they're both coming down at the same time. Yeah, so it says they both need to come down at the same time. I think the issue is when you have one, that it's enough to tweak the whole assembly. Because right now it's free, but if we get one down, yeah, see, it causes a little bit of tension in the system, but we should never be doing it that way. We should do both of them at the same time, and then I feel like once it wears in a little bit, that'll be gone, but plus adding just a drop of oil in here would probably free that up. So I'm liking all that. I'm thinking that all that looks good. The only thing I'm thinking is if we could maybe clock the screws so that they kind of match the profile here. Because there's going to be one side that you're going to see more, and it's going to be this side. So I'm kind of debating what we should do about that. Because the other side will be facing the bathroom wall, and you're not necessarily going to see it that much. I actually like the amount of tension on this. So I'm reluctant to do anything about it because I think it's going to wear in a little bit. So I'm going to leave it for now. And if there is an issue, I can just hit this on the sander. It's a tiny little bit. But all right. So the next thing me and my wife were going to look at was lighter springs in here. Should we do that? Because it got a little tight on some of the rolls of toilet paper, like especially when you were trying to pull it. All right. So you can see the little skis right there. They're running against it. But see, that feels fine right there. So I don't know. We'll just have to see what's what. Okay, so we got the sides off. They're all nice and cleaned out now. And we are going to put the red Loctite on. I also cleaned the shafts, and then I cleaned the bushing as well. So we're gonna slide that guy in. And then we're gonna put a little thread locker on here. Got way too much on there. All right, making sure we're putting it together correctly. Probably definitely gonna want that spring on. Don't like definitely clean any of the excess Loctite because it's going to act like a glue to everything. All right, so now just gonna, all right. So we'll do both sides, and then I'll take the set screw out right there, and then we'll lock that side in. Did you clean this?
Yep.
All righty, so I'll send that in, spring in. We will lubrify that. Okay, we're gonna need some Loctite on there. All right, clean up the excess. All right, so you can see how much better those holes look now that we've cleaned them out. So now I'm just gonna get a small screwdriver so we can pop those out. So there's the little button I drilled to encapsulate this. So I'm gonna take this all the way out, and then I'm gonna put Loctite down in here. Okay. And then screw it into the Loctite. Okay, now we're gonna need to put this back in. And hopefully hit that little, yeah, it looks like I hit it. All right. So now don't go too crazy with this, but just crazy enough. All right, same with the other side. All right, there's the little thing I drilled out. All right, here we go. Putting that in there. It's a good gob of it. All right, that is started. Pushing this back through, trying to line those up. As long as we're close, it should locate. Right there, located. All right. So before we keep messing with this, we're gonna let all that Loctite set up, and we should be completely fine with that. But I'm already noticing an issue that we did. These are on the wrong side. Should be on that side. So we're gonna have to undo these before the Loctite sets. It's funny, I already feel the thing getting hard. So I'll unscrew this all the way and put a little bit more Loctite in there. Yeah, this whole thing only goes on one way. All right. Now that one's on the right side. So, all right, that's pretty torqued down. Now we gotta undo this one. Hopefully that red Loctite isn't like fully set, which it feels like it is. Well, this is not good. All right, so we're gonna have to take it apart and flip that over. All right, that was quite the pain. We had to pry off and actually destroyed one of the nuts, but it is all back together and on the right side, so let that be a lesson, kids. Red Loctite dries pretty quick, especially in the sun. So I'm more confident now that this thing is gonna be held together with that red Loctite. So I think we're gonna head off to Lowe's. We're gonna get the right nut for this, and then we'll probably be back installing it with these guys. So, yeah. All right, so we're in the bathroom with the now finished toilet paper dispenser, and we are going to mount it. We're gonna mount it right here. So that is gonna be fun. There's a lot of things to think about. I have a giant fender washer on the outside. It seems like this board right here just stays the whole way. So I should be able to go over as much as I can without having to chop up that fender washer. So that's what I'm gonna do. And we're gonna try that and see how it goes. I'm gonna get the first hole in first, obviously, the first hole in first, but then we're going to measure off of this hole and to do the second hole. All right, no going back now. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put this together. Hopefully I got the right side to the right side. And then I'm going to double check to make sure I'm not gonna hit anything on the sink or anything like that. And no, that looks like it's gonna be fine. So now it's all about drilling that second hole 6 inches on center over, and then the same exact height. So then that way this thing's not all cattywampus. Just above 30 1/4. So I'm gonna do 30 1/4, but we're gonna have to go exactly 6 inches over, which is gonna be fun. So exactly 6 inches over. Okay, move your hand over it. All right, so now off of that hole, I'm going to take a few measurements. Okay. About 6 inches over, and then I think it's close enough to give it a try. All right, so now the complicated part. So this thing is also not very light, surprisingly. Even though I cut off all that metal, it's not very light. All right, so wanted these sides pushed out as much as possible. So we still have to go in and put in the nuts with these fender washers. Really get it nice and tight. There you go, plenty of room in there. I guess you guys can see why I was putting all the brass and stuff in the bathroom now. So now it all looks right. That nut's not really wanting to go onto the end of that rod very easily. Oh, that's fine. So just in case you're wondering, my hand's like up here. So I'm gonna get the other one on. All right, that's the big fender washer that's on. I think there might be something wrong with one of these nuts. It's galled up or something. But all right, we'll bring you back in once we got it all tightened up. No sense you guys sitting here watching me screw on a nut. All right, this is what it's taking. It's literally a two-person operation.
Okay, wrench is on.
So I have my son on the inside and then me on the outside with a... So I'm trying not to mark up the nuts as much as possible, but this first one's already on and buried, like you can see, like nothing's happening there. So I'm trying to get this one on, but it seems like I'm concerned that I'm like messing up the nut a little bit, but we're getting tight now. All right. You on this one?
Yep, on it.
All right.
On it.
All right, so we're gonna run these other two nuts on top of them. My son is, at least. And then we're gonna crush these ones against that one because we couldn't find any nylon locking nuts in this thread size, which is 5/16 24. Apparently all the hardware stores have 5/16 18, but not 24, so that was fun. Oh, there we go. So you're gonna want to turn the outside nut, but not the inside nut. You're gonna want to you're crushing one into the other, but not crazy, just enough. You're probably good. All right, so that's it. It's installed now. I did go to Lowe's and get the other acorn nut. So even with it being torqued down, everything's still nice and loose. So now it's time to load a toilet paper roll. So let's see how it works. All right, so there we are. All right, so this is just the roll that was inside the bathroom. And there we are. So that's finally the end. I don't know how long this video is going to be, but thanks for watching till the end of this. This is why we were putting in so many different brass pieces. We were just trying to add that little bit of something. Over here we made a magnetic shelf if you haven't seen that video, but this whole trailer bathroom, we built it from scratch. So there'll be a link in the description, but thanks for watching. Give us a like, give us a follow. If you really like this content, we'd like to do more projects like this, but we can only do it with your help. Thanks for watching.